The blood moon rose, and everything changed. Naomi and Eli, bound by fate and love, returned from their first battle scarred but alive. Yet peace came with whispers. The shadow was not gone. It had only changed shape. As the Crescent Fang Pack rebuilt, Naomi began to feel the world shifting around her. The power that once saved her now carried something darker. Echoes of the first Moonbound, Asha, and the curse that began it all. Layla, once lost to the shadow, returned with secrets of her own. Her guilt grew heavier as Naomi's power grew unstable. And when the moon spirit's true nature was revealed, that the light and shadow were once sisters torn apart by love, Naomi realized history was repeating itself. Eli fought to keep her grounded, but the red moon demanded balance. To save the world, Naomi and Layla confronted each other beneath its light, not as enemies, but as reflections of the same soul. When the dust cleared, Naomi had merged the light and darkness within her. The shadow was gone. The world was safe. But the cost was clear. Balance had been restored, temporarily. The final image burned in memory, Naomi, eyes glowing with both silver and crimson, standing beneath a fractured moon. The veil between worlds still pulsed, alive, trembling, waiting for what would come next. The moon had not been the same since that night. Some nights it burned silver, pure and soft like Naomi's light. Other nights it bled red, shimmering with the memory of Layla's shadow. But now it was both. Half light, half blood, half peace, half warning. The Crescent Fang Pack had survived, but they were not whole. Naomi stood alone on the bayou ridge, her reflection glimmering faintly in the water below. The mark on her chest had faded since the battle, no longer burning, just a faint scar, like the ghost of a promise. But she still felt the pulse of power inside her, shifting like tides she could no longer control. She whispered into the still air, "You said it was over." The moon said nothing. Behind her, Eli approached quietly. He didn't need to announce himself. Her body recognized his presence before her mind did. "You're awake early," he said, his voice rough from lack of sleep. Naomi smiled faintly. "You too." They stood in silence for a moment, the sound of the swamp wrapping around them, the distant croak of frogs, the soft hum of night. Then Eli said, "You feel it too, don't you?" Naomi didn't look away from the moon. "It's thinning." "The veil?" She nodded. "It's not sealed like we thought. The balance, it's breaking again." Eli exhaled slowly. "We gave everything for this peace." Naomi's voice was quiet, steady, but heavy. Maybe peace was never supposed to last. By morning, the pack gathered for the first time since the blood moon. The camp looked smaller now, half its wolves gone, the rest still wary of the power Naomi carried. Even Layla's presence stirred unease. She sat at the far edge of the gathering, her once red eyes now dull brown again, though shadows still clung faintly to her skin. Some called her cursed. Others pitied her. No one trusted her. Marin stood in the center, her voice carrying over the murmurs. "We rebuilt from ashes before. We can do it again. But something dark stirs beyond our borders." A scout stepped forward. "The fog near the east ridge. It's not natural. We hear whispers in it." Naomi's gaze sharpened. "Whispers?" He nodded. "Voices, familiar ones." The crowd shifted uneasily. Layla's head tilted slightly. "Familiar how?" The scout hesitated, then whispered, "They sound like our dead." A ripple of fear moved through the wolves. Marin's tone grew grim. "The veil is thinning." Naomi's pulse quickened. She felt the weight of the moon pressing against her chest. The same energy that once healed, now trembling on the edge of something new. Eli spoke firmly. "We'll patrol the ridge. If the veil's breaking, we'll find where." Marin caught Naomi's eyes. "And when you do, remember what happened last time you tried to fix what was broken." Naomi swallowed hard. "I don't have a choice." That night, fog rolled in thick and slow. Naomi and Eli moved through the trees, their lanterns casting faint halos of gold and silver across the swamp. The mist felt alive, curling around their ankles, whispering. Eli's voice was low. "You sure about this?" "No," Naomi said, "but if the veil's cracking, it'll start where the worlds were closest, near the old bayou graves." As they reached the clearing, the fog shifted, parting like curtains. Naomi froze. Figures stood among the graves, translucent, glowing faintly with moonlight. Their eyes were empty but kind, their faces painfully familiar. Eli stepped forward, breath catching. "That's my father." Naomi turned slowly. The spirits surrounded them in silence. Their forms flickered like candlelight in the wind. Then one, an old she-wolf with silver eyes, spoke softly. "The moon is fading." Naomi's throat tightened. "Who are you?" "Once, we were protectors of the veil. Now we are what leaks through it." Eli's jaw clenched. "Why now?" "Because the light and shadow are one. Balance is fragile. When hearts merge, worlds merge." Naomi's breath trembled. "You mean me?" The spirit nodded. "You carry both. You are the bridge, and bridges, child, break under weight." Before Naomi could respond, the air grew cold. A new sound filled the clearing, a low rumble, like thunder beneath the earth. The spirits turned toward the sound, their faces shifting from calm to fear. "It comes," one whispered. The fog darkened, turning thick and black. From within it came a shape, a figure made of shadow and bone, its eyes hollow, its voice nothing but a rasping breath. Eli drew his blade. "Naomi, stay behind me." The thing spoke, not with words, but with a feeling that struck deep in her chest. "Child of light and dark, the moon's time ends, ours begins." Naomi's mark flared, burning like fire. Her knees buckled under the surge of energy. The world tilted. Eli caught her, shouting her name, but his voice sounded far away. Naomi's vision blurred. The last thing she saw was the creature's hand reaching toward her, touching her forehead with a finger of shadow. The world went black. And in that darkness, a voice whispered, "When the moon fades, who will hold the light?" The world swam back slowly, light and shadow twisting together like smoke. Naomi woke with the taste of cold air on her tongue and the sound of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. She wasn't in the bayou anymore. She was standing in a place made entirely of light, white as bone, endless as sky. And before her stood a woman. Her hair flowed like silver water, her eyes glowing with a warmth Naomi felt deep in her chest. Naomi knew her instantly, though they'd never met. The first, Moonbound. "You shouldn't be here." the woman said softly, her voice calm but heavy with sorrow. Naomi took a slow breath. Then why bring me? Because you need to remember. The woman reached out and touched Naomi's forehead. The world flashed white. Then it wasn't light anymore, but fire and blood. Naomi gasped. She was seeing through the woman's eyes now, in a world that existed long before pacts and bloodlines. The first Moonbound walked among mortals as the moon's chosen guardian. Her name was Asha. She had the power to heal the dying and command the tides, but she also carried the loneliness of the moon itself. And she wasn't alone for long. In the vision, Naomi saw him, the man of shadow, his eyes dark as obsidian, but soft when they looked at Asha. He wasn't born of evil. He was born of emptiness. The moon had cast its shadow to balance her light, and somehow the two fell in love. Naomi felt the memory like it was her own, his touch, his warmth, the way their light and darkness fit together perfectly. But balance has a cost. When the moon turned red for the first time, the shadow lost control, consuming everything it loved. Asha had to seal him beyond the veil, binding his soul inside the darkness that became the shadow's curse. And with his fall, she broke the world, splitting the realms of life and death, creating the veil to keep them apart. The vision cracked and faded. Naomi gasped and stumbled back into the present. The first Moonbound watched her with sorrowful eyes. "You see now?" she whispered. "The veil was born of love, and all love must be tended, or it decays." Naomi's voice shook. The shadow wasn't evil. He was just lost. "Just as you might be," the woman said gently. "The balance you created is breaking. The moon cannot carry two hearts." Naomi frowned. 2 hearts? "One for light," the spirit said, "and one for the mortal you refuse to let go of. Eli." Naomi's throat tightened. "If the veil's breaking because of me, then I'll fix it. Tell me how." The woman's expression darkened. "To mend what love broke, love must break again." Before Naomi could speak, the vision shattered. She woke with a gasp. Eli was beside her, his hand on her shoulder, his eyes wide with worry. "Naomi! Thank the moon! What happened?" Her skin was cold, her heart still pounding from the vision. "I saw her," she whispered. "The first Moonbound." Eli frowned. "The one who created the veil?" Naomi nodded. She said it was born from love, hers and the shadows. Marin, who had been tending the fire nearby, froze. "Then it makes sense." Naomi turned to her. "What does?" "When light and dark merged again through you, the old bond reawakened," Marin said. "You've reopened the door she sealed with her heart." Naomi stood, the realization cutting through her. So if the door was sealed with love, Eli finished for her. It can only be closed with loss. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Later, as night fell, Naomi walked alone along the bayou. The air shimmered faintly, the veil between worlds visible now, thin, silver ripples moving across the water. From the mist, a familiar figure emerged. Layla. Her eyes were calm now, her tone soft. "You saw her, didn't you?" Naomi nodded. She said the veil was never meant to last. Layla stepped closer. "Then maybe it's time to stop trying to fix it." Naomi frowned. "You don't mean that." Layla's gaze was unreadable. Why keep a wall between life and death if it means living in pieces? Maybe the world needs to remember both. Naomi's voice was firm. The veil keeps balance. Layla smiled faintly. Or maybe it keeps us from becoming whole. The wind shifted. The moon glowed brighter, half red, half silver. Naomi stared at it, her heart caught between two truths. The moon spirit wanted her to restore the veil. Layla wanted to destroy it, and her love for Eli made her want both. As Naomi turned to leave, Layla's voice followed her. You can't save both worlds, sister. One will always have to let go. Naomi didn't answer. She just looked back at the reflection of the half moon on the water. Two faces, staring back at her, one light, one shadow. And in that fragile reflection, she whispered, Then I'll find a way to save both, even if it kills me. The air had grown strange. The wolves could smell it before they could name it, the cold sweetness of something long dead walking among them. Naomi stood at the edge of the pack's territory, her eyes on the thin veil of mist that clung to the bayou. When the wind shifted, she swore she saw movement inside it. Not shapes exactly, but memories given form. It started after her vision of Asha, the first moonbound. Ever since then, the line between life and death had blurred. At first, it was whispers, faint and fleeting. Then came the voices, familiar ones, loved ones. That morning, as she passed through camp, a young wolf named Taran froze in her path. His eyes were wide, shining with something between hope and terror. Naomi, I saw my mother last night, he said. She spoke my name. She said she missed me. Naomi's stomach twisted. You're sure it was her? He nodded. She was right there. But when I tried to touch her, she melted into smoke. Before Naomi could respond, another voice called out. An older wolf, his tone trembling. It's not just him. We all see them now. Naomi glanced at Eli across the clearing. His expression was tight, wary. He didn't say it out loud, but she could tell he was seeing them too. That night, she found him by the fire, staring into the flames. His blade lay forgotten beside him. Eli, she said softly, you've been quiet all day. He didn't look at her. I saw my father. Naomi froze. Eli's voice was steady, but there was something haunted in it. He stood right where you're standing now. He looked proud. Said he was finally free. Then he told me something I can't shake. Naomi knelt beside him. What did he say? Eli turned to her, his golden eyes flickering with something fragile. He said, Don't let her go where I did. Naomi's breath caught. He was warning you. Or warning me about you. The words hung heavy between them. She reached for his hand, but he pulled away, standing abruptly. I don't know what's real anymore, Naomi. The dead are walking, and every time I look at you, I see the same light that's pulling them here. Her chest tightened. You think this is my fault. I think, he said slowly, that you're carrying something too big for this world to hold. Naomi's voice broke. Then help me carry it. Eli looked away, his jaw clenched, the hurt in his silence louder than any argument. Later, Naomi walked the edge of the swamp alone. The moon hung low, casting silver-red light across the still water. The veil shimmered faintly, thin like spider silk, rippling with every breath of wind. She knelt, touching the surface of the water. Asha, she whispered. Show me what's happening. The reflection rippled, and a figure appeared, the spirit of the first moonbound once more. Her face was soft, but her eyes were filled with sorrow. The worlds are bleeding together, Asha said. The living call to the dead, and the dead answer. You opened the door when you took both halves into yourself. Naomi's voice trembled. Then how do I close it? You can't, Asha said gently, not while you still love both worlds. Naomi's throat tightened. There has to be another way. The spirit shook her head. Love built the veil, but love can also break it. You must decide which world your heart belongs to, Naomi, the one that breathes or the one that remembers. The vision faded. Naomi stared at the water, tears glinting in the moonlight. She didn't know how to choose. How could she? Her heart beat for Eli, for the pack, for the living. But it also pulsed with the power of everything beyond, the weight of souls that had trusted her to guide them home. Back at camp, Eli sat alone when the air shifted behind him. A faint glow spread across the trees. He turned slowly, and there stood his father again. The spirit's eyes were empty this time, its mouth open in a soundless cry. Father? Eli whispered. The figure took a step forward, but the movement was wrong, jerky, unnatural. Its hand reached out, grasping at him. Eli stumbled back. No! Naomi appeared from the trees, her mark blazing bright. Don't touch it! She raised her hand, silver light bursting from her palm. The ghost shrieked, dissolving into smoke. Eli stared, breathless. That wasn't him, was it? Naomi shook her head. Not anymore. The veil's breaking faster than I thought. They're trapped between worlds. He looked at her, anger and fear twisting in his chest. How long before it takes you too? Naomi met his gaze, the pain raw in her voice. Maybe it already has. As dawn broke, the fog began to retreat, but the damage was done. The graves near the east ridge glowed faintly, spirits flickering like embers in the morning light. And somewhere deep beneath the bayou, something stirred. A low hum that trembled through the earth, through Naomi's bones. It was a voice she recognized. The shadow. The moon cannot hold what it does not own, it whispered, and she no longer belongs to herself. Naomi looked up at the crimson-tinged dawn, her heart heavy with dread. The veil wasn't just cracking anymore, it was breaking. Morning sunlight never reached the bayou that day. Even under a clear sky, the swamp felt dim, as if the light had grown tired of shining. Naomi stood in the shallows, water brushing her knees, her eyes on the moon's reflection rippling beneath the surface. Every time the wind moved, her reflection flickered. One moment her face, the next, someone else's. The first moonbound. The moon spirit. Her future. The veil had grown thinner overnight. Spirits no longer waited for darkness, they lingered even under the sun. Naomi could feel them, hundreds of whispers pressing against her thoughts, pleading, remembering. She whispered into the water, "How do I stop this?" The reflection shimmered, and Asha's voice came faintly through the ripples. You can't stop what you've already become, child of balance. Naomi's throat tightened. I don't want to become you. You already are. Before Naomi could respond, the reflection vanished. Only her own face stared back now, tired, pale and fading. When she returned to camp, the tension was thick. Wolves whispered as she passed. The pack had begun to fear her again. Even Layla kept her distance, eyes lowered, unsure whether to approach or stay silent. Only Eli didn't look away. He waited near the central fire, his expression heavy with the weight of too many sleepless nights. "You were gone again," he said quietly. "I was trying to listen," Naomi replied. "To the moon spirit. She's weaker now." Eli frowned. "Weaker how?" Naomi hesitated, then whispered, "She's dying." The words hung in the air like smoke. Eli stared at her. "You mean the moon spirit? The moon can die?" Naomi nodded slowly. "Her light's fading. The balance between life and death was her heartbeat, and I broke it when I merged with the shadow's power. She can't hold herself together anymore." He took a step closer. "Then what happens when she's gone?" Naomi met his eyes. "The veil collapses. The dead will walk the earth until there's no separation left between this world and the next." Eli's voice was sharp. "Then we find a way to fix it. There has to be a way." She smiled faintly, sadness in her eyes. "There is, but it means someone has to take her place." Eli froze. "Naomi, it's what Asha did before me," she continued, voice trembling. "Every moonbound before her was born with a spark of her light. When the old one fades, that spark chooses a successor." Eli shook his head. "No, you're not dying for this." "It's not death," Naomi whispered. "It's forever." He reached for her, but she turned away. "You don't understand. The moon spirit doesn't die. She transforms. She becomes everything. The tides, the stars, the dreams of wolves. I wouldn't be gone. Not really." Eli's voice broke. "Not really isn't good enough." That night, Naomi sat alone by the fire. The pack had gone silent, sensing the tension in the air. Layla approached quietly, sitting beside her. "You told him," Layla said. Naomi nodded. "He thinks he can fight it." Layla smirked softly. "He's an alpha. They think they can fight everything." Naomi looked at her, tired but fond. "He's right to try, but this isn't something we can kill." Layla studied her for a long moment. "When I carried the shadow, I thought I was invincible. Then I learned that power doesn't make you eternal. It just makes you heavy." Naomi frowned. "Heavy?" Layla's gaze drifted to the fire. "Power carries weight. Every soul, every memory, it presses down until you forget which parts were ever yours. Maybe that's what forever really is. Not time. Just wait." Naomi was silent for a while, staring into the flames. Then she whispered, "If forever is heavy, maybe it needs someone strong enough to carry it." Layla gave a sad smile. "And of course, that someone has to be you." Naomi's voice was soft but steady. "It's always been me." Later, Naomi found Eli outside the camp. He was standing near the edge of the forest, where the mist glowed faintly with the shimmer of the veil. "I know you don't want to hear this," she said, "but you have to let me finish what I started." He turned slowly, eyes bright with anger and grief. "You think I can just stand here and watch you turn into light? Watch you leave me again?" Naomi's voice broke. "This isn't about leaving. It's about saving everyone." "I don't care about everyone," he shouted, then lowered his voice, trembling. I care about you. She stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. And that's exactly why I have to do this. He shook his head, pain cracking through his voice. Naomi, please. You're asking me to lose you. She touched his face gently. I'm asking you to remember me. There's a difference. They stood in silence, their foreheads pressed together, hearts beating in sync, two souls bound by love and by destiny. Finally, Naomi pulled away. Tomorrow I start preparing the ritual. Eli's jaw tightened. And if I stop you? Naomi's eyes glowed faintly silver. Then the world ends. She walked away, the moonlight trailing her like a ghost. Eli stayed where he was, fists clenched, staring after her. Above them, the moon flickered, its light dimming, pulsing like a dying heart. And in that fading glow, a whisper slipped through the trees. When the moon falls, love must rise. The moon hung low that night, dim, flickering, more shadow than light. The air in the bayou was thick with the smell of rain and restless magic. Layla walked alone through the trees, her bare feet silent against the damp earth. She shouldn't have been out there. Naomi had warned her to stay close, to let the pack rest. But Layla couldn't rest. Not while the woman who saved her was preparing to give up everything. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Naomi's face fading into starlight. And every time, the same thought followed like a whisper she couldn't silence. There has to be another way. The shadow had once used her as a vessel, filled her with its hunger and rage. She'd spent months learning how to shut that voice out. Now she was calling to it. Come on, she murmured into the fog. I know you can hear me. The air grew colder. The trees groaned as if remembering something old. Then a low voice answered, soft, familiar, and endless. You again. Layla exhaled shakily. I need your help. You should have learned by now, the shadow whispered. Help from me is never free. Layla's hands trembled. Naomi's dying. The moon spirit is pulling her in. If she ascends, she's gone. I can't let that happen. The darkness shifted, forming a faint outline of a figure, tall, faceless, smoke for skin. You would save her by defying the moon? Yes. The shadow chuckled softly. Then we are alike after all. Layla swallowed hard. Tell me how to stop it. The shadows swirled tighter around her. The ritual of ascension is a bond between light and strength. Break the Alpha's bloodline, and the ritual dies with it. Layla froze. You mean Eli? He anchors her to this world. Sever the bond, and she cannot rise. Her heart pounded. If I break it, won't that kill him? The shadow smiled, a sound more than a sight. Every choice has a grave. Layla clenched her fists. There has to be another way. There isn't, the shadow whispered. Save her or save him. You cannot have both. Then the darkness vanished, leaving her alone in the mist. By morning, the rain had come. It poured over the camp, heavy and cleansing, washing away the scent of fear for just a moment. Naomi sat beneath the shelter of an old cypress, her hands folded in her lap, eyes distant. The ritual symbols Marin had drawn around her glowed faintly beneath the rain. You're early, Naomi said without turning as Layla approached. I couldn't sleep. Naomi smiled faintly. None of us can. Layla hesitated. You really mean to do this? Naomi's gaze stayed on the horizon. The moon's spirit's light fades faster every night. If I don't replace her, everything we've done, everything we've lost, it'll all collapse. Layla's throat tightened. And Eli? Naomi's expression softened, sadness flickering in her eyes. He'll hate me for a while. Then he'll lead them without me. Layla looked down, guilt burning in her chest. You always talk like your choice is the only one that matters. Naomi turned to her. If you have another way, I'm listening. Layla opened her mouth but said nothing. The truth sat heavy on her tongue, poisonous. If she told Naomi what the shadow had said, it would destroy her. So she just whispered, I wish there was. Naomi smiled weakly. So do I. That night, Layla made her choice. When the camp fell quiet, she slipped into Eli's tent. He was half asleep, exhaustion softening the lines in his face. He stirred as she knelt beside him. Layla, he murmured, voice thick with fatigue. She swallowed. I need to ask you something. If there was a way to save Naomi, just her, would you take it? Eli frowned, sitting up. What are you talking about? Answer me, Layla pressed. He stared at her, the truth in his eyes before the words left his mouth. Yes, of course. Layla's breath hitched. Even if it meant breaking what you have? Eli's jaw tightened. If it keeps her alive, I'd give up anything. That was all she needed to hear. Layla reached into her pocket, pulling out a small vial filled with dark liquid, the shadow's gift. A drop of its power, enough to sever the bond between Alpha and Moonbound. I'm sorry, she whispered. Before Eli could move, she smashed the vial against his chest. The darkness seeped into his skin like smoke, spreading across his veins. He gasped, clutching his heart as pain tore through him. Layla, what did you... I'm saving her, she said, tears spilling down her face. I'm saving her the only way I can. Eli's body convulsed, light and shadow warring beneath his skin. The golden glow that always lingered in his eyes flickered, dimmed, then vanished. Naomi woke from her trance, pain shooting through her chest. She screamed, clutching at the mark that bound her to Eli. The connection that had always been there, the warmth, the steady hum of his presence, was gone. Just gone. Eli! She cried out, staggering toward the camp. Eli! She found him on his knees, barely breathing, Layla beside him, shaking with guilt. Naomi fell to the ground beside him, pressing her hands to his face. Eli, stay with me! His eyes fluttered open. Naomi, I can't feel you. Tears blurred her vision. What did you do? Layla's voice broke. I did what you couldn't. Naomi's scream echoed through the swamp, the sound sharp enough to shake the air itself. The moon overhead flared red, then dimmed to gray. The bond was broken. And with it, the last thread of balance holding the veil together. Far across the swamp, the shadow stirred, awake again for the first time in centuries. Its voice rumbled through the mist, low and satisfied. One heart silenced, one heart shattered, now the moon will bleed. The storm came at dawn, not rain, not thunder, but light. Silver and red poured across the bayou like two tides colliding, each fighting for the same sky. Naomi woke to silence that hurt. The bond's absence rang in her chest like a missing heartbeat. Eli's pulse no longer echoed through her. His warmth gone. She stumbled from her tent, breath ragged, the mark on her chest glowing a dull gray. Around her, the world seemed wrong. The trees leaned closer. The air bent light in strange ways. Even the water refused to reflect her face. Layla waited by the fire, her eyes swollen from tears. Naomi stopped when she saw her. "What did you do?" Layla didn't answer. Naomi's voice cracked. "Tell me you didn't." "I had to," Layla whispered. "He was going to let you die." Naomi's hands trembled. "You broke him. I saved you. Then why do I feel dead?" The words hit harder than thunder. Layla's mouth opened, but no sound came. She turned away as Naomi sank to her knees, clutching her chest, gasping against a pain that wasn't physical. For the first time since becoming moonbound, Naomi couldn't feel the pack. Their emotions, their energy, nothing. The world had gone quiet. By midday, the forest began to change. Without the Alpha's bond to ground her, Naomi's power drifted unchecked. The mist around the camp thickened until it glowed faintly silver, humming with her heartbeat. Every few breaths, a shape flickered in the fog, shadows of wolves long dead, drawn toward her without meaning to be. Marin found her kneeling in the clearing, eyes glazed with light. "Naomi!" She blinked, snapping back to herself. "They keep coming. I can't stop it." Marin crouched beside her. "The bond anchored your humanity. Without it, your spirit is losing form." Naomi stared at her hands. They shimmered faintly, almost transparent. "How long do I have?" "Until the next moonrise," Marin said softly. "Unless we find a new anchor." Naomi's voice was barely a whisper. "You mean someone else?" Marin nodded. "But no one's ever survived sharing the moonbound's light twice." Naomi's jaw tightened. "Then I won't ask anyone to." Eli lay inside Marin's hut, pale and feverish. His golden glow was gone, replaced by veins of gray that crept up his arms. The shadow's poison, Layla's vial, still worked its way through him. When Naomi entered, he turned his head slowly, his eyes dim. "You shouldn't be here," he murmured. "It hurts when I look at you." "I know," she said softly. "It hurts when I breathe." He tried to smile. "So, still stubborn." Naomi sat beside him, brushing his hair back. "I can fix this." He caught her wrist weakly. "No, Naomi, you can't keep giving yourself away to save everyone else." Tears stung her eyes. "You think I want this? You think I asked for forever?" He reached up, touching her cheek with trembling fingers. "I think the moon chose the only heart big enough to carry it." For a long time, neither of them spoke. Outside the mist pressed against the windows, whispering softly. Finally, Naomi said, "Layla broke us to save me. But she didn't understand. You were never my weakness. You were my anchor." Eli closed his eyes. "Then what are you without me?" Naomi's voice cracked. "I don't know." That night, the veil tore again. The sky split open, bleeding light and shadow. Spirits poured into the swamp, their cries echoing through the trees. Wolves screamed as the air shimmered around them. half of them turning ghost pale, trapped between flesh and spirit. Naomi ran into the chaos, her silver light blazing, trying to push the spirits back. But every time she reached out, more came. The veil wasn't mending. It was devouring itself. "Naomi!" Layla shouted from across the clearing. "You're burning yourself out!" Naomi ignored her, raising her hands, light pouring from her palms. The energy exploded outward, forcing the spirits to retreat. But when the glow faded, her knees buckled. She fell to the ground, her breath shallow, skin flickering like fading starlight. Layla caught her, voice breaking. "Don't you dare disappear on me!" Naomi looked up weakly. If the veil falls, the world goes hollow. "Then we fix it, together," Layla said. Naomi's smile was faint, but real. "You sound like her." "Like who?" "The first Moonbound. She said love always tries, even when it loses." Layla held her tighter as the mist rose higher around them. Above, the moon flickered again, half silver, half red, dimming until it looked like a dying ember in the sky. And somewhere far away, a single voice whispered through the void. A child's voice, soft but clear. "The moon is breaking, and she's taking the world with her." The world had gone gray, not dark, not light, just gray, like the color of breath before it fades. Layla walked through it barefoot, each step stirring ripples in the mist beneath her. She'd crossed the edge of the veil hours ago, or maybe minutes. Time didn't move here. It simply waited. Behind her, the mortal world had already started to unravel. Naomi's power was fading, the moon dimming with her. The pack would soon follow if she couldn't find a way to make it right. "I never meant for this," Layla whispered. Her voice barely echoed. "I just wanted to save her." The air shifted. A voice answered, deep and steady. "Redemption isn't given, child. It's earned." The mist thickened, forming a shape, tall, radiant, and still. A woman cloaked in light and shadow both, her eyes endless. Layla froze. "Moon spirit?" The figure smiled faintly. "You've carried my echo longer than most. I wondered how long it would take before you came to me again." Layla swallowed. "Naomi's dying. You have to stop it." "I cannot," the spirit said gently. "She carries both halves of me now. She is balance. I am memory." Layla shook her head. "No, she's still human." The spirit stepped closer, the light around her dimming to a softer glow. "That's what makes her perfect. But the balance she created cannot last. The mortal and the divine are not meant to share a single heart." "Then split them," Layla pleaded. "Take it back. Take me instead." The spirit studied her, eyes narrowing. "You would offer yourself again to the dark?" Layla's voice broke. "I already live with it. Maybe that's why I'm still here." The silence stretched between them. Then, softly, the spirit said, "The shadow was born from love that refused to die. That same love lives in you. If you would save her, you must understand what that love truly was." The mist around them rippled. The spirit raised her hand and the veil opened. "Then show me," Layla whispered. Light swallowed her. When it cleared, she was standing in a field beneath two moons, one silver, one red. At the center stood Asha, the first moonbound, and beside her, the man of shadow. Layla's breath caught. "You loved him," she whispered. Asha turned, her eyes filled with centuries of sorrow. "Yes, and in doing so, I damned the world." Layla stepped closer. "But you sealed the shadow away. You created the veil." Asha nodded slowly. "I created separation, but I never destroyed him. The shadow is not evil, Layla. It is the half of me that grieved too much to move on." Layla frowned. "Then why is it destroying everything?" "Because grief that's left alone too long turns to hunger," Asha said softly. "You know that better than anyone." The word struck deep. Layla remembered the nights she'd lain awake, haunted by the faces of the wolves who died because of her. The guilt she'd carried like a second skin. "I just wanted to make it right," she whispered. Asha smiled gently. "Then do what I couldn't. Love her enough to let her go." Layla's eyes filled with tears. "She's all I have left." "Then give her back to the world," Asha said. "That's what redemption truly is. Not being forgiven, but choosing to love without holding on." The vision faded, and Layla stood once more before the moon spirit. The spirit's voice was soft. "You have seen the truth. Do you understand what must be done?" Layla nodded. Naomi's soul is splitting. Her light needs something to hold it. Something alive. Something willing. The spirit inclined her head. "An anchor." Layla's voice trembled. "Me." The spirit smiled. "Yes. The darkness in you was never meant to destroy. It was meant to hold. To keep balance from scattering. That is why the shadow chose you." Layla's heart pounded. "And if I do this?" "You'll live," the spirit said. "But not as you are. The world will forget you. The moon will remember." Layla exhaled shakily. "Then that's enough." The spirit reached out, touching Layla's forehead. "Then go, child of shadow. The moon waits for its keeper." Layla gasped as she returned to her body. The veil closed around her with a shudder, and the sound of the world came rushing back. Rain, wind, distant cries. She was standing at the edge of the swamp again. The moon hung above her, flickering like a dying candle. She whispered into the night, "Hold on, Naomi. I'm coming." Then, as the first drops of moonlight fell like tears from the sky, Layla stepped into the storm. Toward the temple, toward her sister in spirit, and toward the destiny she'd once feared. The moon was trembling. Its light rippled across the clouds like water about to break. The veil, the world, the pack. Everything waited. Naomi stood before the ancient temple, rain-soaked and pale, her breath misting in the cool night air. The silver mark on her chest glowed faintly, pulsing to the rhythm of a dying heartbeat. Behind her, the pack had gathered. None spoke. Their faces reflected the same fear and the same hope. At the front, Eli watched her with the quiet focus of a man torn between faith and loss. He hadn't healed. The shadow's poison still lived beneath his skin, dulling the gold in his eyes. But he was there, as he always had been. Layla emerged from the mist. Every step she took shimmered faintly, as if the shadows beneath her feet bent in reverence. Her hair clung to her face, wet with rain, but her eyes burned. Not red, not brown, but a deep, violet glow that flickered like both dusk and dawn. Naomi's breath caught. Layla. Layla smiled faintly. I found it. The truth. The moon spirit showed me. Naomi frowned. You went into the veil? I had to, Layla said. You can't finish this ritual alone. You need an anchor, someone to hold your light in place. Naomi shook her head. No, that'll destroy you. Layla's smile didn't waver. I think we both know I was destroyed a long time ago. Eli stepped forward. You can't ask her to do this. Layla turned to him. She didn't. I chose it. The three of them stood there in silence. The Alpha, the Moonbound, and the Shadow's echo. The trinity that had haunted the world since the first blood moon. Marin's voice broke through the quiet. The eclipse begins soon. Once the moon's halves align, the worlds will merge. You must act before the light turns red. Naomi looked between them, heartbreaking. If this works, Layla interrupted softly, then the veil holds and you live. And you? Layla's smile was sad. The moon will remember me. The temple pulsed with light as they stepped inside. The air shimmered with power, the stone glowing faintly beneath their feet. At the center, an ancient altar stood, cracked, weathered, and waiting. Naomi stood before it, her hands trembling. Marin, she whispered, tell me what to do. The elder's voice was calm, steady. When the moons align, you must merge your light with hers. Layla's darkness will bind it to the veil, and the Alpha's strength will ground it to this world. Only together can you seal the breach. Eli's jaw tightened. And if one of us fails? Marin looked down. Then all three are lost. The silence that followed felt endless. Then Naomi nodded. We're ready. Outside, the eclipse began. The moon's silver glow dimmed as its red half rose to meet it, the two halves colliding in a perfect circle of light and shadow. Inside the temple, Naomi's mark burst to life, light spilling from her body in waves. Layla's aura flared crimson, shadows twisting around her like ribbons. Eli's golden energy burned between them, the three colors spiraling together in a storm of raw power. The air cracked with thunder. The ground trembled. Naomi's voice rose above the chaos. By the light of the moon and the weight of our blood, I call the worlds apart. Layla followed. By the darkness that held the grief of the first love, I anchor the light. Eli roared the final words. By the strength that protects what it loves, I hold the line. The power collided. The temple exploded in color, red, gold, and silver, twisting into a column of energy that pierced the clouds. Outside, the pack fell to their knees as the moon flared brighter than it ever had before. The veil screamed, a sound that wasn't sound at all, but memory, history, pain. Naomi felt it tearing through her. She saw every moonbound before her, every alpha who died protecting them, every shadow that had tried to claim the light. Naomi! Eli's voice barely reached her. His body trembled as the energy surged through him. It's too much! I can hold it, she gasped. Layla's eyes widened. No, you can't! The veil's too weak! It's eating you! Naomi screamed as light poured from her eyes, her hands, her heart. The world around her vanished, replaced by white. And in that white, she saw the moon spirit, You cannot be both, the spirit said softly. You must choose. Naomi's voice trembled. I can't choose between them. Then the world will choose for you. The spirit reached toward her, but before she could touch her, another hand appeared. Dark, trembling, human. Layla's. Let her go, Layla whispered. Let me carry it. Naomi's eyes widened. Layla, no! Layla smiled through tears. You brought light back into the darkness. Let me do the same for you. Before Naomi could stop her, Layla stepped into the light, into Naomi, and the two halves collided once more. The eclipse outside flared, a perfect union of blood and silver. Eli shouted, but his voice was lost in the roar of power. The altar shattered, the temple walls shook. Then, silence. When the light faded, Eli was on the ground, coughing. Dust filled the air, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Naomi! He shouted, staggering to his feet. Layla! The temple was empty, the altar gone. Only a faint shimmer of light lingered in the air. A pulse, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. He reached out, his voice cracking. Naomi? A whisper answered him, soft as wind. I'm still here. The air shimmered, and for a moment he saw her, Naomi, radiant, half shadow, half light. Layla's energy burned within her, her eyes both silver and crimson. She smiled. The veil holds. Eli's breath caught. And you? Her voice was calm, fading. I'm between. Then she was gone. The light scattering into the sky like falling stars. Eli fell to his knees as the moon above them shone whole again, neither red nor silver, but something entirely new. Far above, in the endless quiet of the heavens, two voices spoke as one. Balance restored, love remembered, and the world exhaled. Morning came like it didn't remember the night before. The swamp was still, the trees stood untouched. The water rippled gently, carrying reflections of a moon that now shone pale gold, neither red nor silver, but something new. Eli woke alone among the ruins of the temple. His body ached with every breath, his heartbeat slow and uneven. When he looked around, there was no one. No Layla, no Naomi, only silence. He pushed himself to his feet, leaning against the cracked stone. The smell of rain and ash filled his lungs. Naomi? He called, his voice hoarse. The wind answered with a whisper that almost sounded like her name. He took a slow step forward. The ground glowed faintly beneath his boots, soft traces of silver light curling like veins through the earth. Each pulse matched his heartbeat. You're still here, he whispered, but the light didn't answer. It simply shimmered, warm and cold at the same time, fading as he walked. By midday, he reached the edge of camp. The pack was waiting for him, silent, eyes lowered, heads bowed. Maren stepped forward, her face streaked with tears. It's done, she said quietly. The veil is sealed. Eli swallowed hard. At what cost? She looked up at him. The world lives. That was her cost. He turned away, jaw clenched, eyes burning. She promised she'd come back. Maren's voice softened. Maybe she did. Eli frowned. She pointed toward the sky. The moon, still visible even in daylight, shimmered faintly. For a heartbeat, its light flickered in a pattern he knew too well. 3 pulses, slow, even, steady, the rhythm of her heart. Eli stared, his throat tight. Naomi? That night, the pack gathered to mourn. They built a pyre of old wood and silver leaves, the kind Naomi had loved to walk among. No one spoke. Words felt too small. Eli stood apart, watching the flames rise. His golden eyes caught the reflection of the fire, but inside they were dim. Moraine approached him quietly. "You carry her mark still," she said. Eli looked down. Beneath the fabric of his shirt, faint silver light glowed along the veins of his chest. "I feel her, every heartbeat, like she's part of me." "She is," Moraine said. "The Moonbound were never meant to disappear. They become the light that guides us." He looked at her, pain cracking through his voice. "I don't want her light. I want her." Moraine sighed, her hand gentle on his shoulder. "Love never leaves, Eli. It just changes shape." As night fell, Eli walked alone into the bayou. The mist glowed softly around him, carrying the echoes of distant howls, the pack adjusting to a world without their Moonbound. He stopped at the water's edge, staring at the reflection of the golden moon. "You said I'd lead them?" he whispered. "But how do I lead without you?" The wind stirred, the water rippled. Then, faintly, a voice drifted through the air, warm, familiar, wrapped in light. "You've always led, Eli." "Even when you thought you were following me," his breath caught. "Naomi?" The water shimmered, forming her reflection, faint, ghost-like, but smiling. Her eyes glowed both silver and red. "I can't stay," she said softly, "but I can see you." Always he knelt beside the water. "They said the Moonbound becomes eternal. Is that what this is?" She tilted her head. "Eternal isn't forever. It's balance. It's learning to let go and still love through the distance." He swallowed hard. "I'm not ready to let go." Her smile wavered, tender and sad. "Then hold on a little longer." He reached toward her reflection. For an instant, his fingers brushed light, warm, real. Then it faded, rippling away. He stayed there long after the water went still. Back at camp, the wolves slept under a new moonlight, softer, golden, peaceful. Moraine watched from the shadows, whispering to herself, "The Moonbound rises again." And far above, in the sky, the moon pulsed once more, steady, alive, watching. Somewhere, Naomi's voice echoed like a sigh through the trees. "The moon never leaves you. It only changes its shape." The world had grown quiet again, not the heavy silence of grief, but something gentler, like a long breath finally exhaled. Weeks had passed since the ritual. The veil was whole. The storms had ceased. The dead had gone back to their sleep beneath the roots and water. The Crescent Fang Pack began to rebuild. They moved through their days with a kind of reverent calm, carrying Naomi's memory like a prayer. And every night the moon shone gold, its new light softer, warmer, alive. Eli walked the ridge above the swamp where the temple once stood. The ruins were gone now, swallowed by vines and time, but the air still shimmered faintly the way it had when she was near. He wore her pendant around his neck, a small piece of moonstone, cracked and half glowing. He touched it whenever the ache grew too deep. Moraine joined him quietly, leaning on her staff. "She would have liked this piece," she said. Eli nodded. "She would have found the quiet strange." Moraine chuckled softly. Naomi never trusted silence, said it gave her too much time to think Eli's smile was faint. She'd say that. They stood together for a while, watching the moon rise. The gold shimmered across the bayou water, turning the whole world into liquid light. "She's still with you, you know," Moraine said. "The Moonbound never truly leave." Eli's fingers tightened around the pendant. I know, but knowing doesn't stop the missing. Marin's voice softened. Love isn't meant to stop the missing. It's meant to teach us how to keep loving through it. Eli turned to her, eyes glinting faintly with gold. You always speak like you know more than you should. She smiled. I knew her before she became what she was. And I'll know her after. Before he could ask what she meant, she was gone, vanished into the mist like a dream. That night, Eli couldn't sleep. The moon's pull was too strong. He wandered through the bayou until he reached the water's edge, the same place where Naomi once stood, watching her reflection. He knelt, staring into the rippling gold light. I kept my promise. He whispered, the pack's safe. The veil's strong, but I don't know how to live in a world that doesn't have you in it. The wind stirred. The moonlight shimmered. Then, from the water, her reflection appeared. Naomi, glowing faintly, her eyes soft, her voice carried on the wind. You were never meant to live without me, she said. You were meant to live for what we built. Eli's throat tightened. Naomi, she smiled gently. I'm part of everything now. The light, the tide, the breath in your chest when you lead them. You don't have to look for me in the sky. You'll find me in the quiet between heartbeats. He laughed softly through tears. That's unfair. You know I was never good with quiet. Her laughter drifted around him, warm, like sunlight. Then fill it, Eli. Fill it with life. The water rippled again. Her reflection began to fade. Wait, he said. Just tell me one thing. Are you at peace? Her voice came soft, steady, full of light. Peace isn't stillness. It's balance. I am both now, moon and shadow, love and loss, light and dark. And I am watching. Eli closed his eyes, whispering, Then watch me well. He returned to camp before dawn. The wolves greeted him in silence, forming a circle around him as the moon dipped low and the sun began to rise. Eli lifted his face to the light, the first sunlight he'd let himself feel in weeks. It warmed his skin, golden and real. Behind him, the pack howled, a long, steady sound that rose through the trees, through the clouds, until it reached the moon itself. And somewhere far beyond the veil, Naomi smiled. The sky shimmered. For a brief moment, both the sun and moon shared the horizon. An eclipse made of dawn and dusk, gold and silver, mortal and eternal. A voice whispered across the world, hers and his, intertwined. Every ending is a beginning. Every shadow is proof the light still burns.